Recording in progress.
Good morning, everybody. This is the January 19th, 2022 morning session of the City Council. Keelan, please call the roll.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Rubio.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Hardesty.
Here.
Maps.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. Under Portland City Code and State Law, the City Council is holding this meeting electronically. All members of the council are attending remotely by video and teleconference, and the city's made several avenues available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The meeting is available to the public on the city's YouTube channel, eGovPDX, www.portlandoregon.gov, and Channel 30. Public may provide written testimony to our council by emailing the City Council clerk at cctestimony@portlandoregon.gov. The council is taking these steps as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and to promote physical distancing. The pandemic is an emergency that threatens public health, safety, and welfare, which requires us to meet remotely by electronic communications. Thank you all for your patience, your flexibility, and understanding as we manage through this difficult situation to conduct the city's business. With that, we'll hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and members of council. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions, reports, or first readings of ordinances. The published council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda contains information about how and when you may sign up for testimony while the City Council is holding electronic meetings. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you're a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When your time is up, the presiding officer will ask you to conclude. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being placed on hold or ejected from the remainder of the electronic meeting. Please be aware all council meetings are recorded. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, first up is communications. Item number 25, please, Keelan.
Request of James O'Connor to address council regarding the considered foie gras ban. It doesn't look like James has joined us yet.
All right, very good. Item 26, please, next individual.
Request of Rebecca Kritzer to address council regarding the proposed sales ban of foie gras.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, Mayor Wheeler. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Rebecca Kritzer. I am a student at the Animal Law Clinic at Lewis and Clark Law School, and I am here to talk with you today about the proposed foie gras sales ban. I currently live in Portland, but I've only been here for a short time. I was surprised to learn that the city still has restaurants that sell foie gras, albeit not many. This came as a surprise to me because my image of Portland was one of a city that is leading the way on animal welfare and environmental concerns. Foie gras production is one of the most egregious forms of animal cruelty that occurs in the farming industry. While neither my spouse nor I currently eat meat, we find the foie gras production in particular so troubling that we have made the decision not to eat at any restaurants that serve foie gras. I understand, however, that others have already provided you substantial information on the foie gras production. Therefore, today, rather than repeat their statements, I would like to ask the members of the council if you have any questions on this topic that I might be able to help answer.
Thank you for that. This is communications. So generally, unless commissioners have specific questions, this is your time to speak. But I will ask, does anybody have any particular questions they'd like to have answered? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler.
You bet.
In light of there being no questions, might I ask if there are any particular concerns that the members of the council have about this ban on the sale of foie gras at this time?
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just in conclusion, hearing no concerns about the sale of foie gras by the people of the council at this time, I'd simply like to conclude by stating that the foie gras sales ban, in addition to being a major milestone towards helping reduce animal cruelty and promoting environmental concerns, also has the benefit of being a non-controversial bill. The ban is also very straightforward and very similar to other bans that Portland currently has in place, such as the plastics ban. And finally, a lot of the research has been done by people passionate not only about animal welfare, but about the citizens of Portland and their well-being. And in light of not being able to answer any additional questions, I will yield my time back.
Thank you. Appreciate your being here today.
Thank you.
Next individual, Keelan, item number 27, please.
Request of Ronald Grimaldi to address council regarding intersectionality and equity issues.
Good morning, Ronald. How are you today?
Hello, Council. My name is Ronald Grimaldi, though I'm perhaps more well known locally as Ronnie the Clown. I want to thank you for having me here. It really means a lot to me. As someone in my profession, Mayor Wheeler has been a great inspiration to me. A few months ago, I was involved in a motor accident and I broke my funny bone. As a clown, this put me out of commission until I could get proper therapy. Unfortunately, my health care under the Affordable Care Act didn't cover such treatment. I would need a proprietary plan for something like that, which is only offered under prices that are unreasonable for someone in my situation. I tried to apply for disability checks, but I was apparently not eligible. This puts me in a very difficult financial situation. The raison d'etre of my presence at this civic meeting of the Portland community is to address the multitudinous issues that I and many executives similar to myself have been experiencing amidst the ongoing pandemic. For one, as numerous individuals of our community have been out of work, busking has been a source of income. This reliance on pedestrian income is already unfortunate without the problem the PPB produces. The police crackdown on public busking has forced me to rely on inferior art forms such as miming and jesting for alternative incomes. This won't be as much of a problem when the pandemic ends and I can go back to gigging as a party clown, but honk on wood, as I like to say. Now, I just want to speak from my heart. As a clown, I certainly don't feel underrepresented in local government and law enforcement. It's just that the measures taken to benefit me and people of my motley profession and identity feel unsatisfactory and inconsequential. Since I already know that Mr. Wheeler will take great actions after having listened to my statements, I, as a member of the Clowning Society of America, would like to nominate Mr. Edward Tevis Wheeler for Clown of the Year and immediately instate him as an honorary clown commissioner. The Clowning Society of America stands with you, Mr. Wheeler. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. And Keelan, does that complete the communications for this morning?
It does, Mayor.
Very good. And colleagues, I am trying to log on to my actual laptop, so far unsuccessfully, but I think I will see if anybody raises their hands. We cannot go to the time certains yet because we're still too far ahead of that. Let's go to the consent agenda. Have any items been pulled off of consent?
Yes, we've had a request for items 31, 32, 34, 35, and 36.
Can you read those again, please?
Yes, 31, 32, 34, 35, and 36.
All right. Can you please call the roll on the remainder of the consent agenda?
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty. Max.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda is adopted. We will go then to the regular agenda. Item number 39, please.
Authorize the Bureau of Transportation to acquire certain permanent and temporary rights necessary for construction of the Central Eastside Access and Circulation Improvements Project through the exercise of the city's eminent domain authority.
Commissioner Hardesty.
It's been a while since I talked while I was muted. Happy New Year.
You were due.
Good morning, Mayor, and thank you, council colleagues. I will turn this item over to the extremely capable staff at PBOT. Brianna Orr is here and Ashley McLeay, and they will tell you why we need this power of eminent domain for the improvements we're about to make. Good morning. Welcome to council. And please introduce yourself. I don't know who's going first.
Good morning, Commissioner Hardesty. Thanks so much for that introduction. My name is Brianna Orr, and I'm here on behalf of PBOT and on behalf of my colleague, Gabe Graff, who was scheduled to present, but unfortunately was unable to join us this morning. So I'm also joined by Ashley McClay, who will be speaking on behalf of our PBOT right-of-way team. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Give me just one moment to get that set up. All right, are folks seeing that presentation? Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to keep it in this view if that's all right, just so I can see my notes as well. So thanks for bearing with me. Just one more moment.
I always love seeing old pictures of Portland.
Oh, right. I know Gabe has a fondness for these archive photos. So again, thank you so much for having me. This photo is from 1932, a photo from City Archives taken at present-day MLK Junior Boulevard, formerly Union Avenue, and Washington Street. And the folks here are repairing the sewer line here. And at that time, there wasn't a signalized intersection here. And so I think it's just a good reminder of how frequently our city is changing and how dynamic it is. But here today to chat with you about the Central Eastside Access and Improvement Project. And here's a map showing the several locations that we are touching with this project. And those locations include traffic signals at Northeast 16th and Irving, Southeast Sandy and 11th and Ankeny, Southeast Grand at Washington, Southeast Grand at Salmon, Southeast MLK at Salmon. And where we are right now in this project is nearing completion with the design, and our construction is anticipated for summer 2022. This project is funded by the Metro Regional Flexible Funds Program, and the total project budget is $4.7 million. And so just to give you an example and the sense of the scope of these intersection improvements, this is one example, Northeast 16th and Irving, where we have a full traffic signal here where it is currently an always stop. We're also improving the curb ramps to make them ADA compliant. And we are adding curb extensions on the south side of the street, so that helps shorten the crossing distance for pedestrians. And it also adds a new pedestrian crossing along the north side of the intersection where we don't have one today. And we are also adding green, what we call skip striping, which just allows for more visibility for people who are biking, and green bike boxes, which allow people who are biking to wait in front of traffic so they're more visible and less likely to get hit by a right turning vehicle. And in terms of public involvement, we've had multiple years of public involvement on this project as part of our Central City in Motion plan, which was adopted by City Council in 2018. So we had 3 public open houses in winter of 2020, just before we had to lock down. So we have that photo here back when we used to be able to meet in person with the public, which was so great. Since then, we've had presentations to the Central Eastside Industrial Council, the Central City in Motion Working Group, and the Bicycle and Freight Advisory Committees throughout 2021. And then we've also mailed notifications to all property residents and owners and business owners in 2020 and just a few weeks ago, or the end of 2021, just a few weeks ago. Our right-of-way team has also had communication with the affected property owners as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ashley to discuss the right-of-way.
Thank you, Brianna. Good morning. My name for the record is Ashley McClay. I'm here with PBOT right-of-way. Agenda 39 gives PBOT authority to compensate affected property owners for needed easements and, if necessary, to condemn freeze property rights associated with the Central Eastside Access and Circulation Project. For this project, both permanent right-of-way and temporary easements will be needed from 7 property owners to support construction of the project improvements. The permanent right-of-way will allow for construction support of certain ADA ramps as well as signal facilities for this project, and the temporary easements will be used for construction support. All affected property owners have been informed of the project needs, and they were also invited to attend this meeting. So that concludes our presentation. If council has any questions, we can answer them at this time.
Well done, Mayor. I'll turn it back to you.
Very good, colleagues. Any questions on this item? Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. I appreciate it. Keelan, is there any public, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor. I was just going to ask if we could stop the screen share.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any public testimony on this emergency ordinance, Keelan?
No one signed up.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Rubio,
I want to thank Commissioner Hardesty for bringing this forward and also thank Brianna and Ashley for their presentation. I vote aye.
Ryan, Commissioner Ryan.
Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button. I guess it's in the air today. Hey, thank you so much, Brianna and Ashley and Commissioner Hardesty for bringing this forward. I especially was tuned in to the 16th and Irving stop. I've driven through there many times, and when the good students of Benson Tech return in a couple of years for their exciting remodel, boy, that adds a lot of safety. I vote aye.
Hardesty.
Thank you very much, PBOT, for your diligent work on this project, especially Brianna and Ashley. And thank you, colleagues, for your support. These improvements will increase pedestrian safety in the Central Eastside area. And I just can't think of a better investment of these dollars. I vote aye.
Maps.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Hardesty and PBOT for bringing these important improvements forward. I'm glad to vote aye on this one.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Before we go to the first time certain colleagues, my understanding is the first communications individual has now joined us. Item number 25, Keelan.
Request of James O'Connor to address council regarding the considered foie gras ban.
Good morning.
Hello, council. Sorry, I'm turning off my background here. Hello, council, and good morning. First off, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to join you and speak on this issue. I'm here to speak on the support of the proposed ban on foie gras sales here in Portland. I am a local resident and I represent a newer demographic that has moved here in the past few years. Part of what attracted me to moving to Portland is the progressiveness of this city. And it's in my humble opinion that having bans on inherently cruel products like foie gras, as well as animal fur, would live up to the progressive standard of our city. In so doing, Portland would follow in the compassionate and forward-looking footsteps of cities like New York and the statewide policy of California. I know there's been prior testimony by at least one fellow activist outlining the process of the forced feed of ducks and geese, thus producing the outsized livers from which foie gras product is produced. Therefore, I feel less inclined to depict the inhumane details here today and rather would like to spend a moment to refute the claims of any opposition who say there's nothing wrong with the process of fattening up duck and geese livers for foie gras production. In my opinion, it goes beyond rationality to assume that because an animal has the elastic esophagus, that it's then perfectly fine and good to stick metal tubes down their throat of these birds for the purpose of manipulating the bloating of its internal organs. If we were to take this out of context and imagine that another species like a dog had an elastic esophagus, people would be in an absolute uproar. But because unfortunately the real life victims here are non-personalized birds, often those without names, the production and sale of foie gras has really already gone on for far too long. Furthermore, as I've learned, we always must check the source in these matters. The opposition speaks from an entrenched position of profit motive. And it's sad and unfortunate that the countless lives of ducks and geese are put to an end prematurely following a life commonly depicted by confinement and animal abuse. And for what? Profits and the opportunity to consume a delicacy, which start to finish will last no more than roughly about 10 minutes. So I pose the question to the council as a consideration on this matter of what will the city choose to prioritize? Fleeting sensory pleasure or life? I thank you and I yield my time.
Thank you. We appreciate your being here today, James. First time certain item, please. Keelan, I'm sorry we're jumping around, but the agenda is a little odd this morning. Item number 28, please.
Amend Title 33 Planning and Zoning and Title 32 Signs and Related Regulations to revise and update regulations for historic resources.
Moment. Colleagues, today we are voting on the amended documents for the Historic Resources Code project. As some of you know, it's known by HRCP for short. Brandon Spencer Hartle is here as often from the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. Brandon, can you please explain the amended documents to us? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Brandon Spencer Hartle with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability here, and hopefully this can be our shortest of the hearings to date on the Historic Resource Code project. For the clerk, I'm going to share my screen here just briefly. So as you all may remember, back in December, Council held a hearing on potential amendments to the Historic Resources Code project, Title 33 and Title 32 zoning code and sign ordinance project. And at the conclusion of public testimony on December 15th, Council took votes on the 8 potential amendments, ultimately voting to move 6 of those amendments. What staff are asking Council to do today is to revise several documents associated with the project to incorporate those amendment votes back in December. Assuming that Council does that today, we'll be back next week for a final vote to adopt the package of code revisions. And so I have on the screen here the documents that staff are asking Council to amend. Your offices all received a memo on January 11th detailing the same, and all these documents are available publicly on e-files and the e-council.
Thank you, Brandon. Is there a motion to amend the documents?
So moved.
Commissioner Hardesty moves. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Keelan, please call the vote unless there's any further discussion. Brandon, go ahead.
Mayor, I just want to check with our city attorney quickly if that motion works for our purposes today.
My understanding is the motion is to amend the HRCP ordinance, findings, and recommended draft volumes 1 and 2 as shown in the memo distributed by planning. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, that is correct.
I thought that's what she said.
Exactly.
She did. I'm just being repetitive.
Very good. Keelan, please call the vote.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Thank you, Brandon, for making sure we were legal. Aye.
Maps.
I feel like I should ask if there's public testimony on this.
This is a land use issue.
So no, all right.
It goes by a different script, and so no, there is not at this particular point.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Mayor. I vote aye.
Wheeler.
I vote aye. The motion passes to second reading. This item is continued to January 26, 2022 at 9:45 a.m. Thank you all. That concludes this item. Thank you, Brandon.
Not quite, Mayor. Next.
For today. That concludes the item for today. Thank you. Next item, and I believe we're not on track for the second. We're not ready to do the second time certain yet, so we'll skip back to the regular agenda to items number 40 and 41. Please read them together, Keelan.
40, adopt meter rate adjustment for the Northwest Parking Management District within the restricted event district. And 41, amend Upper Northwest Parking Definitions Code to revise the definitions of long-term meter and short-term meter.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Mayor. These two ordinances come before us through an extensive process of evaluation and analysis by PBOT staff and our Resident Stakeholder Advisory Committee, or the SAC, as they're often called. Staff will go into the details, but this is really about adjusting meter rates and hours in Northwest Portland around Providence Park to free up parking for businesses in the area and incentivize forms of transportation to games that don't involve an individual getting into an individual motor vehicle. I also have one housekeeping item, as we have the wrong date of enactment in this current ordinance. I move that we amend the meter rate increase ordinance with a date change from February 28th to February 26th, which is the first match of the timber season.
Commissioner Hardesty moves the amendment. I second. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing no further discussion on the amendment, please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment's on the table. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two staff members from PBOT Parking Operations, Kristen Aldrin and Rayleigh Stark. I'm here to explain the details. Staff, please take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Kristen Aldrin, and I manage the Policy Outreach Projects and Permits Program in Parking Operations. The two ordinances we bring to City Council today further our parking management in Northwest, specifically in the restricted event district. One ordinance raises the meter rates in the restricted event district on event days. The other changes City Code's definition of long-term and short-term meters. Rayleigh Stark is PBOT's Northwest liaison, and she will explain these strategies and goals and their benefits, and will answer any questions that you may have. Rayleigh?
Hey. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Rayleigh Stark, the Northwest Parking District liaison, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen? There we go. Okay. All right, I'm going to start by giving you a background on the Northwest Parking District. The Northwest Parking District is one of the city's densest, fastest growing neighborhoods, which necessitates ongoing parking management. To keep up with the parking needs of the residents, employees, and customers, the Northwest Parking District uses both meters and permits to manage the demand. That means to visit the district, you must pay for parking using the meters. And if you're a resident or employee, you can purchase an annual parking permit. To help PBOT manage parking, the Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee makes recommendations to PBOT. The committee consists of neighborhood residents, employees, business owners, and property owners that meet monthly to discuss the parking needs of the neighborhood. This collaboration is important for the ongoing parking management of the district. We're here to focus on the restricted event district, which you can see is the lower third of the Northwest Parking District. During events at Providence Park, parking in this area is discouraged for event goers. Instead, the goal is for event goers who choose to drive to park in the event district, which is closer to the stadium and allows for 4-hour parking. Based on the occupancy data during events, the restricted event district is overparked. We are proposing 2 changes based on data we've collected, parking management best practices, and input from the district stakeholder advisory committee. The first change is about rates. To address the high occupancy, we propose to use pricing as a tool to influence behavior. We are proposing to increase to $4 an hour during game days, which matches the rate during game days in the event district. We do not want people to drive to games, so this may need to increase in the future. The second change is about the way we define short and long-term meters. During events, the time limits for meters are 2 hours. However, you are currently allowed to meter feed. This proposal changes the definitions of short and long-term meters, so meter feeding is not allowed. This will encourage turnover. We believe these two changes will influence the behavior of event goers and discourage them from driving. Because parking permits are available for residents and employees, we do not anticipate these changes having a negative impact on them. Instead, we anticipate that it will free up parking for employees and residents. We will be monitoring annually to see if we need to make future adjustments. Thank you for your time, and I can answer any questions you have.
Doesn't look like we're seeing any at this particular moment. Is there any public testimony on either of these items?
Yes, Mayor, we have two people signed up.
Let's hear them.
First up, we have Nick Fenster.
And if it would be helpful if people testifying knew specifically whether they were referring to the meter rate adjustment or the parking definitions code. And if you don't know, that's fine. But if you do happen to know which of the two ordinances you're testifying on, that would be helpful, or perhaps it's both. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to defer to the second person. I'm the vice chair for the Northwest SAC. We also have Rick Michelson, who's our chair, and I think he'd like to speak first.
All right, Rick, why don't you go ahead and we'll follow up with Nick.
Sure. My name is Rick Michelson, and I've been working on parking issues in Northwest Portland for the last 45 years, unforgettable as it may be. I started working on parking in 1977. I'm now in my 8th year of chairing the Northwest Parking Stakeholders Advisory Committee, which has been quite a process. With a number of members leaving the SAC in September, we'll be using the next few months to summarize our accomplishments and make recommendations for the future, and hopefully speak to you folks again before we leave. We'll also be bringing a number of small code changes to you over the course of the next few months to tweak the program based on what we have learned. The ordinance before you is the first of these. It really is a tweak to primarily adjust the rules for Northwest to match those in Goose Hollow to be consistent. The COVID pandemic and our inability to meet in person has had a significant negative impact on our work, but we're still proud of what we've managed to accomplish over these past 8 years and look forward to bringing more improvements to you in the near future. One of those improvements might be giving PBOT more flexibility so that rate increases and minor changes on the parking meters, timing, et cetera, does not have to come all the way to council for an ordinance. It seems like there's general agreement on what to do, and this is more burdensome than it needs to be. Just a suggestion. Thank you very much for your time, and now Nick will present the recommendation of the committee to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nick Fenster. I am the Managing Director for Northwest Children's Theater and School in Northwest Portland. I'm also a representative with the Northwest Business Association on the Parking SAC and its Vice Chair. Thank you and good morning. I've been asked to read a letter we sent to Council dated December 16th, 2021. Dear Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners, at the Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee, or the SAC, we are charged with advising the Portland Bureau of Transportation on transportation and parking matters in Northwest Portland, with the goals of efficiently managing parking and reducing reliance on the single occupancy vehicle. In 2001, the restricted event parking district bounded by West Burnside, Northwest Westover, Northwest Irving, and Northwest 18th was created to discourage Providence parking event goers from parking in Northwest Portland. The creation of this district has helped preserve on-street parking for other visitors coming to Northwest. A separate event district located south of West Burnside between Providence Park and I-405 was also created to accommodate event goers. The restricted event parking district is not working as effectively as intended and sees occupancy rates as high as 97% during Timbers games. Due to that, the Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee is in support of the following changes being presented to you and believe they will improve the management of the on-street parking during game days. 1, revise the definition of long-term meters in Northwest to prevent meter feeding at 2-hour meters. The Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee made this recommendation based on a motion that passed with 8 yeas and 3 nays. 2, increase the meter rate from $1.60 to $4 an hour for identified events. The Northwest District Association, Stakeholder Advisory Committee made this recommendation based on a motion that passed with 7 yeas, 1 nay, and 2 abstains. We will continue to monitor the effectiveness of these changes, as well as the ongoing parking management within the Northwest Parking District. City Council may hear from members of the Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee who do not support this recommendation. Thank you sincerely, the Northwest Parking District Stakeholder Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Rick, as well. Keelan, does that complete public testimony on these items?
Yes, it does.
Very good. Colleagues, any further discussion?
Mayor, I see a Owen here that has 40 and 41. Owen, are you here to speak on this matter?
I'm here to answer any questions that council might have. I'm a consultant on this project, and if there was any technical questions, I'm here to answer those. So.
Okay, I saw you. I didn't want us to just like blow over you as we were moving forward. So thanks for being here.
All right, item number 40 is a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Item number 41 is also a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading as well. And I should have said on 40, it moves to second reading as amended. Now we will go back to the time certain agenda. Item number 29, please.
Proclaim the second week of January 2022 to be Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week.
Colleagues, this is the 5th annual Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week proclamation. And this year it's going to be read in both English as well as Russian. The city is proud of its relationships with the Slavic and Eastern European community. And it's especially grateful to the Slavic Empowerment Team, which is a voluntary employee-driven affinity group here at the City of Portland that's organized around a shared interest in Slavic culture and self-affiliation with the Slavic cultural heritage. Because we are virtual again this year due to COVID, we're sad to miss the annual celebration in the City Hall atrium that we've been able to enjoy in previous years. But I know that the Slavic and Eastern European spirit continues to be celebrated far and wide. And now I'll hand it over to the co-sponsor of this proclamation, Commissioner Mapps. Commissioner Mapps, good morning.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, it's an honor to join you in proclaiming the third week of January 2022 to be Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week. Before we turn to today's presentation, I'd like to take a moment to share my perspective on why Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week is important to the city of Portland. Now, there are many reasons to pause and celebrate the contributions Slavic and Eastern European communities have made to Portland. We could talk about the contributions our Slavic and Eastern European neighbors have made to Portland's culture, or we could celebrate the contributions Portland's Slavic and Eastern European communities have made to our city's economy, or we could honor the contributions Portland Slavic and Eastern European communities have made to our city's civic and public life. But this year, when I reflect upon the moral meaning of Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week, I keep returning to a different theme. This year, Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week resonates with me because this moment reminds all of us that the United States is a nation of immigrants and Portland is a city of immigrants. For example, today, around 50,000 Slavic immigrants live in the Portland metro area. The first wave of Slavic immigrants arrived in Oregon in the 1960s and settled around Woodburn, Oregon, where they tended to take up farming. A second wave of Slavic immigrants arrived in Oregon in the 1980s. This group came to Portland seeking religious freedom. They tended to settle in East Portland, especially around the Foster Powell and Gateway neighborhoods. Our Slavic and Eastern European neighbors have been a driving force behind East Portland's resiliency and renaissance. And as Portland continues to recover from the social and economic wounds caused by COVID, I'm reminded that Portland needs our Slavic and Eastern European communities' ingenuity, innovation, and partnership more than ever. Colleagues, that's why I'm glad that this council is taking a moment to remember and recognize the contributions our Slavic and Eastern European neighbors have made to the city of Portland. That is what Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week is all about. And here to tell us more about Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week, we have Slava Hedin, a founding member of the City of Portland's Slavic Empowerment Team. Svetlana, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. Good morning, commissioners and the mayor. My name is Svetlana Hedin. I'm here as a founding member of the Slavic Empowerment Team and co-chair of the Slavic Advisory Council. Slavic Empowerment Team is part of the Diverse Empowered Employees of Portland. This is our 5th annual proclamation, and we are very proud of it. We are proud to take a moment to honor and uplift members of Slavic and Eastern European community living in the greater Portland area. We are here to give a voice and recognition to this unique and beautiful culture that makes our city more diverse and empowered. I would like to recognize Irene Konev, who was the inspirational and instrumental leader to identify that there was no proclamation for our Slavic community. She gathered our community to walk us through the formation of this proclamation in 2017. She has coordinated and led the Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week proclamation with the mayor's office, council clerks, and other city officials for 5 years. I also would like to thank Tamara Berkoski for translating the proclamation into Russian. Today we have 3 speakers that are going to share their stories. I'll introduce all 3 of them, and then first of the speakers will share his stories first. So Timur Holov is a prominent community leader and a managing partner of the Slavic Family Radio and Afisha magazine. Timur serves on the board of the local nonprofit called Slavic Community Center of Northwest, which helps immigrants from the former Soviet Union better integrate into their new life while preserving their cultural heritage. The second speaker is IVanovic Bubic. Arrived from former Yugoslavia as a 2-year-old, he has graduated from OHSU School of Medicine and is in his 2nd year of residency and is pursuing a field of emergency medicine. And a third speaker is Tamara Berkoski, a community leader, English-Russian translator, and a former member of the Slavic Empowerment Team and a member of the Slavic Advisory Council to the Portland Police Bureau. I now invite Timur Holov to share his story. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler. My name is Timur Holov. I'm an immigrant from Tajikistan. During the 90s, a bloody civil war took place in my country. Tens of thousands of lives were lost. At one point, we had to help my aunt flee with her belongings in a train boxcar across many countries to the Ukraine. This wasn't new to our family. During the Second World War, my grandmother and her family were relocated from Ukraine the same way. Most of them ended up moving back, but we were lucky enough to immigrate to the United States. We came to Portland in September of 1998. I remember that within a week, I was walking through the halls of Gregory Heights Middle School. Many people can't imagine the shock that goes through the teenager's head when they see the difference between schools here and schools in other developing countries. Not only that, but inability to speak, understand leads to tremendous emotional stress. Sometimes that stress can lead to many other issues. I can't say that it was easy. Racism, name calling, and bullying was happening a lot. Phrases like "go back to Russia" were heard almost every day. As Slavic community grew, things became a little easier as more teens came to local schools. Unfortunately, more people led to more issues. When I was finishing high school, there was a lot of talk in the community about drugs and teenagers from Christian and non-Christian families becoming addicted. Personally, I lost 2 of my cousins and a brother-in-law to opioid crisis. In 2004, community didn't have Slavic radio or content-rich magazine. We had a few magazines, but those were just platforms to sell advertisement and didn't have any valuable content. When I started my work at Afisha, we wanted to have a platform where people can share valuable information in order to make the lives of others better. As many of you recently found out, information can kill and information can heal as well. What sets our platforms apart is that we source our information locally. We work with local community leaders and organizations that provide us with valuable content to the community. During the pandemic, we worked with doctors and some very prominent community leaders to share important information with the community about the coronavirus and resources that are available. I truly believe that through our work, we helped many people make informed decisions and potentially saved many lives. As far as my work with Slavic Community Center of Northwest, the one of only few truly grassroots nonprofit organizations in the region. It has been on the front lines since the start of the pandemic. Through our work, we were able to provide the community with PPE, culturally specific food, utility, and rent assistance. We put together multiple outreach, testing, and vaccination events to serve the community. Every year, we put together the Portland Slavic Festival, which became the staple of East Portland, which we know is a desert when it comes to community events. Having such event is very important, not only for the Slavic community, but also for East Portland, as it brings people from all over the region and neighborhoods. It serves as a platform for local artists and outreach platform for many organizations. A lot of work is being done by only a handful of organizations that serve the Slavic community. I would like to take a moment and say how important that the city and other government organizations pay close attention and provide necessary support to the grassroots organizations that truly understand the community needs and offer culturally specific support. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank the Slavic Empowerment Team, Irene Konev, Tamara Berkoski, PBOT, Office of Community and Civic Life, Portland Parks and Recreations, and all of the state and city partners. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thanks. Commissioner Mapps, was there one other individual or does that complete the presentation?
I am not sure. I believe we have other speakers today. Is that correct, Svetlana?
Yes, we have a second speaker, Ivanovich Bubic.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this proclamation. I'm actually calling in from San Diego, California, where I'm currently working in an ICU, and I just sort of wanted to take a moment to go over my circuitous route by which I ended up here. So I'm also an immigrant. I moved to the United States when I was just before my second birthday. Before that, I was born in Belgrade, Serbia. My mom is Serbian, my dad is Bosnian. So kind of during the height of the war, they couldn't really live safely or comfortably in either of those places. So first ended up in Austria, and then applied for a sponsorship, and then just by a fortunate coincidence ended up in Portland, where our sponsors welcomed us into their home. I grew up in Southwest Portland. I went to Maplewood Elementary School, and then Jackson Middle School after that, and then Wilson High School. So all kind of Southwest Portland. Towards the end of high school, I actually lost my dad to cancer. So I didn't have any plans on whether I was going to college or what I was planning on doing after that. Ended up applying to one college and went to the University of Montana actually with the intention of studying English. I was an English teaching major when I first started. Eventually transitioned to English creative writing, and I'd sort of always been interested in sciences growing up in high school. So once I learned that you could be pre-med and have any major, I kind of started slowly adding back those science classes, biology, chemistry, volunteering, shadowing physicians in Montana, and slowly worked my way back around to medicine, which brought me to OHSU, where I graduated a couple years ago in 2020. Initially had the intention of studying oncology and specializing in oncology, but after doing all of my clinical rotations, decided that emergency medicine was actually going to be a better fit for me. So again, applied for residency pretty much all over the West Coast and ended up in San Diego, where I'm in my second year of emergency medicine. Currently, like I said, I'm on an ICU rotation. Definitely seeing a lot of COVID everywhere. And then after my emergency medicine residency, I plan on doing a subspecialty fellowship in pain management. And then ideally moving back to Portland at some point. So just in brief, that's sort of my life story. Again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I believe we have one more speaker today.
Very good.
Is it our ringing?
That's correct. Tamara Berkoski. Thank you.
Oh.
Tamara, we can't hear you.
Mute gremlins are at it again.
I know. Welcome to 2022.
Here she comes back with the hammer. This will fix it.
Or a 12-year-old.
Yeah, they're in short supply right now. So we can see you, but we can't hear you.
There we go. Nope.
Wonder if it's your volume button.
Should we try the call-in number?
Tamara, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Yes.
Put in the chat that she's having some technical issues.
Yeah, so maybe she could call in and we can just use the phone. Keelan, do you have access to Tamara?
Yes, we can send her the number to call.
Okay, good. Does that work, Tamara? We'll just have you call in on the phone. Perfect, good. We do this all the time, so don't worry. This is how we MacGyver it.
I didn't know if it was my computer having technical issues because people are coming in and out today, or if it's actually, are you all hearing that as well? Except for sound quality.
I think that, the sound quality has been okay, but it took me 20 minutes to log on. That's a different story.
So it's probably just me.
Oh, look. Okay, I see her twice, but I can't hear her.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we still can't hear. We still can't hear. Can you just call in on the call-in line, and Keelan, you put that in the chat?
Yes, yeah, we'll drop it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. So we'll drop the phone number into the chat. If you could just call us, and then we'll do it old school. You'll sound great.
Mr. Mayor, do we want to go to reflections from commissioners?
Yeah, why don't we?
Wait,
That's a good
before
suggestion.
we read the proclamation, we can get tomorrow.
Why don't you go ahead and start, and then we'll get to the others.
I have, in the interest of time, I think I will forego my usual comments, and I'll.
Okay, very good. Other commissioners, do you have comments you'd like to make at this time prior to hearing Tamara and hearing the proclamation? Commissioner Rubio. Thank you for saving us.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Maps for bringing this proclamation forward. I just want to also thank Svetlana and Timur and Irvan, and also Tamara for trying to get onto the call. Thank you for sharing your compelling community stories and experiences with us. This proclamation really honors Eastern Europeans and Slavic community who make up one of the largest immigrant and refugee communities in Portland. And I just really want to lift up and appreciate the Slavic empowerment team for all their work to ensure that the city builds an inclusive and diverse workforce that is responsive to their community, but also to appreciate and lift up, their civic and cultural and economic contributions as well. And I'm a daughter of an immigrant and granddaughter of immigrants. And I also see and recognize your leadership as a part of that community and your pride, and our city is so much better for it. So I'm very proud to lift up your community today and honor all the countless contributions. And it reminds us to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that we continue to build an inclusive city.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Maps, for bringing this proclamation today. And thank you to the Slavic Affinity Group. It is really important that that people of color, immigrants and refugees and others find a place and a home in the city of Portland. And the affinity groups give the city employees an opportunity to share their lived experience. And it's really vital that we create spaces that are welcoming for folks to share their lived experience and to support each other and their development throughout the city of Portland. It's interesting that the Slavic community travels the way of most communities who come into Portland that are immigrants or refugees. But there tends to continue to be a huge population of immigrants and refugees in East Portland. And it is wonderful to see the engagement of these diverse community members in the fabric of our community. I heard one of the speakers mention the support that they were providing during COVID. Many of our community members would not have survived without culturally specific support that actually respected people where they were and provided their basic needs. And for that, I want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, because I know how vulnerable communities are who come to Portland and are not and don't feel heard, don't feel represented, and don't feel that they have a voice in their civic community. So I'm happy to be part of a council that continues to recognize the uniqueness of our communities and how we are interwoven together. If COVID taught us nothing, it's like COVID doesn't care where you started your life. COVID only cares what you do today and how you make sure you keep you, your family, and our community safe. And so thank you for being here today. I am very grateful.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Maps, for bringing forward this important proclamation, recognizing the Slavic and Eastern European community in Portland and also our state. I always appreciate the digging you do, Commissioner Maps, when you bring proclamations, 50,000 in our state. And thank you, Svetlana, your leadership to lift the Slavic community year-round in our city was really felt by the esteemed guests that you were able to gather this morning. And on that note, I always learn from storytelling. And so, Tamir, thank you for your resilience that you made it here in the late 90s. And you endured all that, the fear that came at you when you were in the schools, the pain of losing members of your community to substance abuse. And Now here you are impacting your community and the entire city, as demonstrated in your life-saving action during the pandemic. And thank you, Arvan, explaining your journey that led you to Southwest Portland through the schools there. And I am sorry about the loss of your father while you're in high school. And thank goodness for your resilience that took you to University of Montana. And now here you are, a doctor with a heart to heal, that's for sure. And thank you for being a first responder in emergency medicine. And please, I heard that. So please move back to Portland. We definitely need you here. And Tamara, I can't wait to learn from you. And in general, I always say this to anyone that wants to listen, the immigrants coming to our country, whether as refugees or immigrants, doesn't matter. They create new communities and emerging economies. We're a country that has always benefited from every arrival, and it makes us a richer community and state and city. And I'm just so pleased that we're taking a moment today to honor the Slavic and Eastern European community. And I just can't wait for you to get on tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Mayor, I believe Tamara can join us via phone now.
Perfect. Welcome.
Tamara, you'll need to push *6 to unmute your phone. Tamara, you're still muted. And it looks like she might be having some muting or
all right.
audio.
Well, I hate to do this, colleagues, but I'm afraid we will have to move on. And so what I will do is read the proclamation. Before I do that, though, I want to thank everyone on the Slavic Empowerment team who helped to draft this proclamation. All of us appreciate it. So on behalf of the Portland City Council, whereas Slavic and Eastern European Americans are one of Portland's largest immigrant and refugee communities, with over 150,000 people in the greater Portland area, whereas Slavic and Eastern European Portlanders can trace their ancestry to 15 countries of the former Soviet Union and 14 Eastern European countries with unique languages, dialects, cultures, and histories. And whereas the city of Portland has many Slavic and Eastern European employees and a Slavic empowerment team that works to build a more inclusive and diverse workforce. Whereas the Slavic empowerment team shares culture, language, and art with city employees through celebrations, displays, and performances. And whereas the Slavic empowerment team collaborates with many diverse organizations in the greater Portland area. And whereas Portland is a welcoming, inclusive, and sanctuary city that celebrates its growing diversity. Whereas the city of Portland is proud of its relationship with all members of the Slavic and Eastern European community and will continue supporting their professional and economic advancement. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim the third week of January 2022 to be the Slavic and Eastern European Heritage Week in Portland and encourage all residents to celebrate this week. Thank you, everyone. And tomorrow I'll ask one more time if you've been able to log on. Svetlana, I'm told maybe you can read the proclamation in Russian. Is that correct? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, yes, I can do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Поскольку американцы славянского и восточноевропейского происхождения являются одной из самых больших общин иммигрантов и беженцев Портленда, насчитывающей более 150 тысяч человек, которые проживают в Портленде и его окрестностях. И поскольку портландцы славянского и восточноевропейского происхождения своими корнями уходят в 15 стран бывшего Советского Союза и 14 восточноевропейских стран с их уникальными языками, диалектами, культурой и историей. И поскольку в городской управе Портленда есть много сотрудников славянского и восточноевропейского происхождения, и славянская инициативная группа, которая формулирует более инклюзивный и разнообразный рабочий коллектив. И поскольку славянская инициационная группа продвигает культуру, язык и искусство среди сотрудников городской управы путем проведения праздничных мероприятий, выставок и представлений. И поскольку славянская инициационная группа сотрудничает с многочисленными разнообразными организациями, работающими в Портленде и его окрестностях, и поскольку Портленд — это гостеприимный, инклюзивный город, убежище, где чувствуют растущее разнообразие, и поскольку городская управа Портленда гордится своими отношениями со своими членами славянского и восточноевропейского общины и будет продолжать поддерживание их профессионального и экономического продвижения. Потому я, Тед Уиллер, мэр города Портленда, штат Орегон, города Росс, настоящим провозглашаю третью неделю января 2022 года, неделей славянского и восточноевропейского наследия в Портленде и призываю всех жителей отмечать эту неделю.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks all of you. And Tamara, I'm sorry we weren't able to get you on, but we know you tried and we appreciate it.
I'm wondering if you can hear me now.
Now we can. Yes. Hurrah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate you waiting, but I'm just adjusting to my new place, and apparently technical issues have to be worked out. So if you will allow me to tell my story.
Yes, please.
So I'm Tamara Berkoski, and my story is different from Timur's and Irvan's. I was born in the Soviet Union, in the part of it which is now Russia, in Siberia to be more precise. And when I was 10 years old, my family moved to Kyrgyzstan, which was one of 15 countries of the former Soviet Union. For us, it was like for Americans to move from Washington State to Oregon. But this situation changed after the demise of the Soviet Union, when all these 15 republics became independent countries, and Kyrgyzstan was one of those newly independent countries. So these were very dynamic times when other countries, including the United States, were officially recognizing newly independent countries and were establishing diplomatic relations and opening U.S. embassies in the capitals of these countries. So one day I read an evening newspaper and I read about the United States opening an embassy in the capital of Kyrgyzstan in Bishkek. So I thought it would be so cool to get a job with the embassy, and I did. So I worked for the embassy for 16 years, first 16 years as administrative specialist, and then 10 years as senior political analyst. So these were absolutely remarkable times. And I was fortunate to meet so many high-level U.S. government officials who were coming to Kyrgyzstan on official visits. To mention just a few, I met in person Vice President Al Gore and First Lady Hillary Clinton, Secretaries of State Madeleine Albright and Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, and many members of the U.S. Congress. I worked for 6 ambassadors during my time with the embassy, and the last ambassador I worked for was Ambassador Marie Jovanovic, an outstanding career diplomat and absolutely fantastic person. Well, looking back, sometimes I feel like I'm daydreaming, and this could not have happened to a little girl from remote Siberia. Well, anyways, after 16 years with the embassy, I used a provision that the United States Department of State has for locally hired embassy staff. If you've worked for the embassy for at least 15 years and your performance was outstanding, you can apply for a special immigrant visa, which is approved on a case-by-case basis by the Secretary of State.
Wow.
And I was the first locally hired embassy employee in the former Soviet Union who met these criteria. I applied for a special immigrant visa, and Condoleezza Rice, the then Secretary of State, approved it. And almost 14 years ago, I came to the United States. Soon after I settled in Portland and connected with the local community, I realized what are the biggest challenges for immigrants. These are lack of English language skills and lack of knowledge about the life in the United States and how things work here. So I decided that I will be doing everything I can to support immigrants. I started volunteering at English as second language classes at Multnomah Library, helping English language instructors. There were people from all over the world in the class, and they knew that in order to succeed, they need strong English skills. For some time, I was manager of the Russian Oregon Social Services, which implemented the program supporting victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Most victims had no idea that there are resources available to them. So I started writing articles for the local Russian language magazine and radio that Timur talks about. And I was writing about such topics as domestic violence and sexual assault, resources available to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, what is sexual harassment, and how to get protective order. At about that time, I became a member of the Slavic Advisory Council to the Portland Police Bureau. And for the last 3 years, I've been a media liaison for the council. This helped me to broaden the topics for community outreach. And I started covering areas that help people in the Russian-speaking community better navigate the life here. Here are a few examples of topics covered in the media outlets that Timur is so efficiently running. The topics include police reform, protests in Portland, trafficking in persons, hate and bias crime, how to act in active shooter situations, how to testify at city council meetings, volunteer opportunities with the city of Portland, and of course, a lot of coverage for COVID and vaccination. As a member of the Slavic Advisory Council, I participated in translation of the Oregon Driver's Manual into Russian, which helped so many people to pass the test, get their driver's license, and become more employable. I also coordinated many interviews with elected officials, decision makers, and PPB leadership level officials on the local Russian language radio and acted as their interpreter. It was my honor to interview Commissioner Matt for both radio and magazine. And believe me, people in the community do appreciate when elected officials reach out to them and talk to them directly. In the last 18 months or so, jointly with my friend and colleague Irene Konev, I helped coordinate and interpreted at radio shows on COVID twice per month. We invited different speakers, including public health experts, medical doctors, nurses, and community members to talk about the pandemic and their experience and vaccination. Since I started with Portland Parks and Recreation almost 3.5 years ago, I translated a lot of information for social and print media and the radio to inform the community about the services available at parks and community centers. During my time with the city, I was also a member of the Slavic Empowerment team. 2 weeks ago, I retired from the city, and now I can spend more time with my 2 adorable grandchildren, 9-year-old Maxim and 5-year-old Masha. Although my grandson asked me not to mention them until they grow up and become famous, but I could not resist the temptation to mention names of my wonderful grandchildren. So even though I've retired, I still plan to continue community outreach work because I find it very rewarding to help people get the information that helps them to succeed and thrive. And if you, dear council members, are interested in talking to the community, I will be more than happy to help you connect with the community and serve as your interpreter. Thank you very much again for your attention and your patience as I was wrestling with technical issues.
And that concludes our presentation today. I appreciate the mayor's show of solidarity with Tamara.
Apparently the mayor can't get off mute either at the moment.
Okay, this is just irritating. So that's me hiding his nest.
Are you Ness Zolan?
Yeah, I'm now coming to you as Ness. I'm a body snatcher now. Hey, so thank you everybody for this. We will now move back to the regular agenda. And the last item here is please item number 42, Keelan, and I'll fix this mess of a computer in the meanwhile.
Authorize competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder and provide payment for construction of the Cedar Crossing Restoration Project number E07158 for an estimated cost of $1,700,000.
Commissioner Maps.
This is a second reading.
Sorry, second reading. Any further business on this item? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Rubio.
Thank you, Commissioner Maps, for bringing this forward. And I look forward to learning how this project progresses. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Maps.
I want to thank my colleagues for their support on this one. This is a great project. I also wanted to circle back to Commissioner Ryan, who last week encouraged environmental services to reach out to the local schools here to inform them about this work so they can learn more about the environment. We've done that, and that has sparked a rich conversation. So thank you very much, Commissioner, for prodding us to be better. This project is about being better, and that is why I vote aye. And with that,
I have to call the mayor.
Yeah, I know. Trying to drag it out.
Ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Commissioner Maps, for your work on this and for everybody else. We'll move back to the pulled items on the consent agenda. Item number 31 first, please.
Pay settlement of Lydia Fuller bodily injury lawsuit in the sum of $22,500 involving the Portland Police Bureau.
Thank you. This ordinance resolves a body injury claim filed against the city back in 2020. Deputy City Attorney Mallory Beebe and Senior Claims Analyst Joseph Jesse are here to present this ordinance. Welcome, Mallory and Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Mallory Beebe, the Deputy City Attorney assigned to handle this matter. And as you already mentioned, also here is Joseph Jesse, the risk adjuster assigned to the matter. This case stems from a protest on June 6, 2020, which went overnight into the early morning of June 7th in downtown Portland. The plaintiff, Lydia Fuller, alleged that she was hit with an impact munition fired by a PPB officer while trying to leave the protest. In June of 2020, Ms. Fuller filed a lawsuit in state court alleging battery against the city. Given the risk of an adverse jury verdict, the parties negotiated a settlement through mediation, which took place in October of 2021. The parties have agreed on a settlement of $22,500 to resolve this lawsuit. The City Attorney's Office and Risk Management recommend that the City Council approve this settlement. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Colleagues, any questions on this item? I am not seeing any questions on this item. And who pulled this item, Keelan?
Mark Porras.
And is he here to testify?
Yes, we have 3 people signed up to testify.
Very good. Each person 3 minutes, name for the record, please.
First up, we have Mark Porras.
Thank you.
Mark, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Good morning. Hi, for the record, my name is Mark Porras. I use he, him pronouns, and I live in Northeast Portland. I asked to have this item pulled from the consent agenda, not just because it's another settlement related to police misconduct, but also because of the way the city attorney's office responded to Ms. Fuller's complaint. On just a second business day since that troublesome PPB training slide deck was made public, I'm glad to see that the city's business goes on uninterrupted by that latest debacle. I've read the city's motion for summary judgment on this incident. Willamette Week described it well in an article on October 27th of last year. Here's a little bit. Plaintiff cannot identify the law enforcement officer who allegedly struck her with a projectile, Deputy City Attorney Mallory Beebe wrote in a September 16 motion for summary judgment. She could not describe the uniform of the officer who fired the projectile. Plaintiff said the group of 50 officers were wearing helmets, but she could not say whether Multnomah County law enforcement officers also wear helmets. And because plaintiff does not know the identity of the officer who allegedly fired the projectile, plaintiff has no evidence of that officer's intent to injure her. So the city's saying that unless you can identify the officer who shoots you in the breast with a less lethal munition, your case has no merit. Is there anyone on this call who would volunteer to walk away from 50 cops in riot gear, turn around and get shot in the breast with a rubber bullet for the promise of $22,500 to be received 19 months later? I mean, would you do it for $225,000 or $2.25 million? I wouldn't. When Mayor Wheeler announced Robert Taylor as city attorney in February of last year, here's what he said. His experience, expertise, and deep background leading professionals through times of change will help ensure the city's interests are protected, and that my colleagues and I are able to use our legal system to support and protect the people of Portland. Well, that doesn't appear to be what the city attorney's office is doing. They appear to be using all means necessary, willing to say anything to protect the city's bank account at the expense of the people of Portland. I mean, wouldn't it be great if the city attorney's office was actually concerned with
Did he just mute or am I frozen again?
No, it's not. He froze for me too.
He's frozen.
I wondered the same thing if it was me or him.
Okay. Are you muted? We can't hear you. Sorry. Keelan, why don't we move on to the second person? We'll come back if we can get him unmuted.
Mark, are you there? I see you. Are you able to continue? No, it looks like, okay.
Frozen again.
Nope.
I'm here. Yeah, do you know how far I got? Let me get to my question for the attorneys who are working under Mr. Robert Taylor. Do you prepare these motions for summary judgment because you think it's the right thing to do, or because someone above you in the attorney's office requires you to do this, or is it standard operating procedure, or some combination of these? And I guess my question for council and the city attorney is what is the purpose of the city attorney's office? It's not clear to me. I'm in favor of this settlement, although like most other police related settlements, it should probably be between 10 and 100 times as costly for the city. And I personally pledge to do what I can to learn how to get more of the money that the city has set aside for harm done by police into the hands of those harmed by police. And I just want to finish by saying that according to Portland Cop Watch, now adding up what they have right now is 13 settlements for violence at protests between October 2016, which was the protest against the PPA contract at City Hall, and October 2020. The city's now shelled out over $437,000 for this police misconduct. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Next up, we have Walter Weiler.
Good morning, I'm Walter Weiler, but I think you've added me to the wrong spot. I'm going to speak on the O'Brien issue.
All right. Thank you, Walter. Keelan, can we make sure that we call him for that issue when it comes up?
Thank you.
Good. All right. Next individual, please.
Next up, we have Alexander Stein.
Good morning.
Alex, you're muted.
Hey guys, thank you for hearing me out. My name is Alex Stein. I go by Primetime99 Alex Stein on Instagram. And the reason why 2020 was so bad, it started off with Kobe Bryant dying. And I just think about like Kobe Bryant would have loved the vaccine because he always took the game-winning shot. And that's what the vaccine is. The vaccine is a game-winning shot. And that's what people don't realize, Mayor Wheeler, is that it's time to grind and shine. And it's time to vaccinate your mind and vaccinate your body if you want to take it to the vaccination party. And if you want to go to the court, you need to have your vaccination passport. That's what people don't realize, my man, is we're living in a world of lies. A bunch of Trump supporters coughing on people, getting people sick. People are dying. And what are you doing about it? We got to mandate these vaccines because that's the only way out. And if you don't do that, you're going to be on a ventilator and you won't be able to shout.
I'm sorry.
And the problem is we're in a society right now. Everybody
is on a settlement. And if you cannot speak to that issue, we're going to move on. Entertaining though it was. Does that complete public testimony on this item?
It does, Mayor.
Very good. Any further discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Item 32, please.
Authorize application for grant in the amount of $5 million from the Economic Development Administration for O'Brien Square renovation, American Rescue Plan Act, travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation notice of funding opportunity.
Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor, and Commissioner Hardesty and I will both give some brief opening comments, and then we'll turn it over to Tate White, who can give a brief overview of the project. Today, O'Brien Square sits atop an unused, structurally compromised parking garage closed off to the public, presenting a liability and danger to residents, workers, and visitors, and an impediment to downtown recovery. Portland Parks and Rec, PBOT, together with BPS, are here today seeking authorization to apply for an Economic Development Administration grant for $5 million. The intent of the Economic Development Administration grant is to help communities and regions implement sustainable economic recovery strategies to respond to coronavirus-related damage to the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors. We think that our city proposal aligns perfectly with the intent of this federal grant. The focus of our proposal includes three elements. First, to renovate and rebuild O'Brien Square. Second, design and create critical Green Loop and Harvey Milk Street Plaza connecting elements. And third, support the newly formed Ankeny Park West Food Cart Pod's success. If we're successful with this proposal, the renovation will be a much needed infusion to reactivate the site and attract visitors to the Green Loop, parks, and food carts and other downtown destinations. So now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Hardesty for some comments.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Rubio. It is an honor to co-lead this effort with you. This is an opportunity to get federal dollars invested in O'Brien Square. But what I wanted to do is also say that, as we know, there's a lot of federal grant potential that is out there. We will do all we can to write for as much federal dollars as we can. But I want the community to know the work that we're doing on O'Brien Square won't stop if we don't get this grant. We are committed to continuing to improve O'Brien Square and to make sure that the Green Loop is completed. The thing I know about federal processes is they take a long time. And so I want to make sure that the work that we've already done to actually reinvigorate O'Brien Square is not lost through this process, and that we continue to build on it, regardless of whether or not the federal opportunity is realized. So thank you so much, Commissioner Rubio. I look forward to continuing to work with you and Portland Parks and Recreation to make sure that we are improving this infrastructure in a way that continues the revitalization of downtown Portland. Thank you. And I'll turn it back to you for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Now Tate will just say a few words on this project.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Rubio, for the introduction. Also, thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. I am a senior planner with Portland Parks and Recreation, and I'm helping to coordinate the application for this grant if you approve. O'Brien Square is located between Southwest Washington and Harvey Milk Streets and Southwest Park and 9th Avenues. The square is currently fenced off, as we've discussed, because it rests on top of a parking garage that is structurally failing. This fenced park closure has removed the surface plaza space from public use. It has become an eyesore in the downtown area with heavy tagging and vandalism. Portland Parks and Recreation, working closely with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability and the Bureau of Transportation, are here today to request approval to apply for an Economic Development Administration grant for $5 million to demolish the garage, fix the square, and rejuvenate this part of the central city to better support the downtown core's recovery and resiliency into the future, build a new fully renovated O'Brien Square Park, design and build a segment of the Green Loop to tie the park to the Ankeny West Food Cart Plaza, and create additional public street plazas for people to gather. The proposed project aligns well with the intent of the EDA grant to help communities and regions implement sustainable economic recovery strategies to respond to coronavirus-related damage to the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors. Portland Parks and Recreation, BPS, and PBOT are collaborating on this grant proposal with the support of Greater Portland, Inc., Travel Portland, Travel Oregon, the Friends of the Green Loop, the Portland Business Alliance, and the Portland Parks Foundation. If the grant is successful, we will continue to work with these partners and engage many others, including nearby property and business owners, Downtown Clean and Safe, the Regional Arts and Culture Council, nearby universities, Prosper Portland, and the local community. We anticipate that the grant, if successful, will create a capital project that will generate positive community and visitor presence and spin-off economic activities. Struggling restaurants, hotels, retailers, food cart owners, all in the area will experience economic benefits directly with the resulting increase in foot traffic and expanded outdoor social spaces. We are asking for council support to submit this economic development grant application. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that complete the presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there any public testimony on this item, Keelan?
Yes, Walter Weiler wants to
yeah,
speak.
good. All right, Walter, this is your time. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Walter Weiler, a member of the board chair of, and speaking on behalf of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. We understand that Parks is seeking authorization for a $5 million Economic Development Administration federal grant, which if funded is to be combined with $3 million in Parks capital funding to renovate O'Brien Park. Pursuing this opportunity for federal funds to invest in this Portland Park and Portland asset is smart. And we applaud Parks for taking this initiative. May I say, well done. The DNA looks forward to having a land use review of this project in the next few weeks. I take this opportunity to encourage the City Council and Parks Bureau to develop and implement maintenance plans for the assets it is responsible for. I believe the current condition of O'Brien Park is in part due to postponed or avoided maintenance. As a business owner, maintenance must be recognized as good business practice, as a necessary ongoing operating expense. When maintenance is postponed, it always leads to interruptions, degraded operations, higher costs, and potential liabilities. Postponed maintenance is currently allowed as allowing trees in our parks to lose major limbs and fall over. And in these parks, this represents potential personal and property liabilities. I urge parks and the City Council to recognize the responsibility to fund and execute tree maintenance plans with existing resources and personnel without waiting for new recruiting delays. The DNA several times has expressed its interest in the need for and execution of a maintenance plan for the South Park Blocks trees. We will appreciate receiving a copy when it is prepared. Thank you for your time. 2 minutes, done.
Beautifully done, Walter, and thank you again for your patience. Keelan, does that complete public testimony?
Yes, it does.
Good. Colleagues, any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Mapps, sorry.
Thank you. I think this one might actually be for Keelan. I think this one was pulled off of consent. I was just wondering who pulled it off and if we've heard their concerns today.
Commissioner Hardesty requested.
Oh,
very good. Thank you. I think this one was pulled, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, because this is actually really good news, and I hope we are successful in bringing this grant forward. Obviously, this has been O'Brien Square has been a huge issue for many, many years, and this is a great opportunity to turn the tide down there and improve the square, recover the square, and that would dovetail with some of the investments we've made around the Ankeny food cart pod. So I believe it was the hope of the commissioners just to bring some light to this issue so that the public could see that we are in fact aggressively working to address this issue. Am I correct, Commissioner Hardesty?
You're absolutely correct, Mayor. And I would also say, just to give the public also some certainty that, as we know, federal grants aren't guaranteed, right? We put in the best proposal we can. They'll be very competitive. And I did not want to lose the momentum that we've created around some of the improvements we've done. Having the food carts back were fabulous, but creating completing that green loop and doing some of the other work will happen whether or not we get this grant. And so I just wanted to make sure that people knew that we weren't putting all our eggs in one basket. And as the mayor said, this is actually good news. I mean, we've been, I know Derek in my office has worked on O'Brien Square for a long time. And so I'm very happy for this partnership.
Yeah, it's good all around.
Commissioner Hardesty, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that clarification. I have no more questions.
Excellent. With that, Keelan, please call the roll.
Rubio.
I would like to thank Tate White, Lauren McGuire, and Park staff and PBOT staff who worked so hard on this grant application and doing so to ensure that we didn't miss this opportunity for critical funding. I'd also like to thank BPS and PBOT staff for their collaboration, as well as Commissioner Hardesty and her team for working closely with my office to develop this plan for O'Brien Square. And we will hopefully look forward to returning to council with some good news in the future. Regardless, as my colleagues said, we are committed to reopening and reactivating O'Brien Square and the surrounding neighborhood. I vote aye.
Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubio. I want to begin by commending you and your team at Parks and Rec for all your hard work and efforts to advance the reconstruction of O'Brien Square. And it's been an under the radar of neglect, and it's so needed in our downtown corridor and also the evolving green loop. And Commissioner Hardesty, thank you for your comments about leveraging investments at the federal level and the urgency of now to get this in the queue. Your list of partners, the groups who are supporting this, was quite a vast list who aren't always on the same page. That was nice to hear. And Walter Whaler, I heard your comments about maintenance needs, and it is a growing concern all over the city. Thank you for that. This is the best next step. I'm excited to see life flow back into the streets of downtown Portland, like all of you are. And again, thank you for grabbing this project by the horns, Commissioner Rubio and Hardesty. And Walter, as Walter said, this is smart. I vote aye.
Hardesty.
I could not be more eloquent than my colleague, Commissioner Rubio, on this matter. This is a labor of love, and we are very hopeful that this partnership will come to a positive outcome. And I look forward to us being on that list of receiving many federal funds as they become available. I'm very happy to vote aye.
Maps.
I want to thank staff and Walter for their presentations today, and recognize and thank Commissioners Rubio and Hardesty for working on this important project. I sure hope that we get this grant and can move on to a new chapter in the history of O'Brien Square. For these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Thank you, everybody. The last set of items for this morning, can you read, please, items 34, 35, and 36 together?
Item 34, approve application under the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for Cap Hill Apartments, Building A, located at 7990 Southwest Capitol Hill Road. Item 35, approve application under the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for Cap Hill Apartments, Building B, located at 7980 Southwest Capitol Hill Road. And item 36, approve application under the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for Going, located at 4544 North Colonial Avenue.
Question before we jump in. Commissioner Hardesty, are you the one who pulled these items?
I pulled two of the three, Mayor, and it was the two Southwest ones that it appeared that the inclusionary units cost more than the market rate.
Okay, so and who pulled the third, Keelan?
We received a request from Derek that all three items were pulled.
I'm sorry, it was us. I just got a text saying it was us that pulled all three. My apologies.
Fair enough. No worries. So I guess my question is this: do you want a full presentation on all of these, or is there something specific you want to drill down into?
I have very specific questions, Mayor, that I'd like to ask about these three proposals.
So let me do this. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Ryan, since he is the commissioner in charge. And then Commissioner Ryan, I'll let you tailor the presentation to the questions that Commissioner Hardesty has, if that is your desire. So
That's
Commissioner
perfect.
Ryan.
And just so you know, Mayor, I did talk to Commissioner Ryan about the questions that I had. So, I mean,
Great.
And Matthew will not be surprised at my questions because we've had these conversations many times. So
I suspect not. Yeah.
No.
Okay, good. Commissioner Ryan, I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Colleagues, this item, along with the two following, are about two projects, multi-applications, again, two in Southwest and one in North Portland. I'm going to turn this over to the Portland Housing Bureau Planning Manager, Matthew Scheibold, to answer these questions. Thanks for being here, Matthew. Please take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, Matthew Scheibold with the Portland Housing Bureau, and I'm available to answer some questions. I guess just the first comment, Commissioner Hardesty, I know we sent your office some information, but I think I'll put up a slide just while we have this conversation that may be reflective of the past to demonstrate what we may see in Portland moving forward. So I know this is a question that has come up at some previous city council hearings on multi-ordinance approvals. And so I just wanted to give council a sense of the change in regulated rents versus the change in market rate rents by looking back to 2010 through 2019. It's hard with our multi-approval ordinances that we see on a month-to-month basis to know how our regulated rents today and our market rate rent, our new construction rents and our existing neighborhood rents, what are they going to look like in the future? And, we don't know for sure, but here is a look at the previous 9 years, because that's the Census Bureau data that's available to us for market rate rents. As you can see in 2010, regulated rents at the 60% level, that's what this is, were similar to market rate rents. But the change in those rents between 2010 and 2019 are drastically different, as the regulated rents are set by HUD and they're based on changes in the median income in the Portland metro area.
Matthew, if you don't mind me interrupting, this is not information that I care about at this moment.
No, that's fine. Since the commissioner pulled it, why don't we just if it's okay with you, Matt, we'll just go to Q&A with the commissioner, and then you can pull those up as required, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so my question is, as of now, the median family income for a family of four in the city of Portland is $96,900. And so if we talk about housing, giving credits to folks at 80% of median family income, and we're looking at studios and one bedrooms, we're talking about people having to make like $70,000 to qualify for an affordable housing unit in the city of Portland. So are we exacerbating the housing inequity with this program? I mean, this is like crazy to me that somebody would have to make $70,000 to qualify for a low income housing unit. And we say we're building a housing people can afford to live in. So that's where I am. I mean, right? It doesn't add up, right? If people are working 2 and 3 $15 an hour jobs, and we are actually saying that we're creating housing people can afford to live in, if I do the math, it just doesn't add up to me. What would you tell a constituent that says, you know, we're building affordable housing? We're not building it for today, so maybe we're building it for tomorrow. So I guess I really don't have a question about why does the affordable housing cost more than the market rate housing that that you're asking for approval for. That's probably my real question.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. I think how I would respond to that is that, you know, the city has a series of housing interventions across the income spectrum from 30% up, 0% up to 80% of the median income for renters. But our data does show that there is a need for affordable housing at 30%, 60%, and 80%. The greatest need of affordable housing is at 30% and 60% of the median income. Which is why, in terms of how we structure our programs across that income spectrum, we don't do direct financing of rental units at the 80% level. That's why we have it in our land use and zoning requirements. We do provide offsets around the property tax exemption and other various land use and zoning incentives. But what that allows us to do is to continue to produce regulated affordable housing with rent caps. At the higher income levels, then we can focus our direct financing, our direct gap financing, and other production program at the lower income levels. So it's a spectrum of programs is how I would respond. And by having zoning requirements that link the production of market rate housing to 60 and 80% regulated housing, we are able to focus our city resources at the deeper affordability level. So I can't really answer that question specific without talking about that kind of full program context. I think the other...
Matthew, can you tell me when we're going to get the study back on the multi-program? What's the timeline for getting that back?
We have submitted all of the scope of work to the procurement office in December, and it is going through the process to post in order for us to bring in a consultant. And we've also already reached out to PSU around the resident survey that you requested, Commissioner, and we're in the process of executing a IGA with PSU to survey the residents of the IH units.
I appreciate that. And Matthew, I know you're not mad at me. You and I've had this conversation a lot over the last 3 years, but it's clear to me as rental is becoming almost unattainable for working people in the city of Portland. The methods that we're using are actually not putting a dent in affordability in Portland. So I hope later this year we will have all that data that can inform how we radically change this program or eliminate this program or do something different. Because honestly, for the return on investment, and yeah, we're not losing a lot of tax money in the multi-program, but we're also telling people that we're building housing, affordable housing, and we're not. And we can't continue to do that. So I'm going to be good. I'll figure out how to vote on these as they come up. But Commissioner Ryan, I know you're also concerned about this is just insanity, right? 96,000, the median family income in the city of Portland today. And yet there's not one zip code that Black people can afford to live in that aren't cost burden. Not one zip code that a white family can start a starter home. I just don't think that we're looking at this like globally. I think we're very narrowly focused in our little kingdom. And so again, Matthew, this is not you. This is really about, are we really giving the public what we said we're giving them with this program and other housing programs? So Mayor, I'm done. Thank you. I appreciate you colleagues giving me an opportunity to ask those questions. This just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to me for me to approve a program that's supposed to provide affordable housing, and then the affordable units are higher than the market rate. It just doesn't feel like this is a good approach to take. And we're just reinforcing something that's not giving us the return on our investment. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Keelan, do we have any public testimony on these items?
No one signed up.
All right, very good. So 34, 35, and 36 are all emergency ordinances. We'll start with 34 unless there's any further questions. Please call the roll.
Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor, or everyone, for your comments. And I want to just say that I share Commissioner Hardesty's concerns. I know that Commissioner Ryan also is very concerned about making sure that we work together to make sure that our legislation better meets the intent of council on these things. And that's why we need the study. And I know that that's something that's of major priority, and we look forward to that outcome. In the meantime, this is what we have, and we need to move on some of the things that we're bound by some of these restrictions at the moment. So for those reasons, I vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you. And that was a great conversation. Matthew, thank you once again for being here and bringing more context to this. As you know, this was a legislation that previous council did approve with partners from the builders, and they're engaged. And that's the good news, to be active in the supply side of building housing. However, this is also why we approved a study at the end in the budget that's currently active. And I appreciated Commissioner Hardesty bringing this to the council dais so that we could continue to have dialogue about what needs to happen with that study, what kind of conversations need to take place. So I think what's helpful for you, Matthew, and the team is that when you have these conversations at the dais, you have a real good blueprint about what must be addressed when we're in that study. And so happy to hear the update on the state of that with the procurement office on the line right now to move that along. All that said, I vote aye.
Hardesty.
Matthew, I just think you do incredible work. I know the Housing Bureau is committed to us having as much housing people can afford to live in as possible. Having said that, I hope that as we move forward, that we are actually thinking about what people's incomes are as compared to what builders are charging for things, right? There has to be a connection between what people wages and people's ability to live in their city. And I hope that we are on a path to actually creating something that's much more transparent, because until I got here and started asking people what they meant by affordable housing, this would have gone off as if this was an affordable housing unit, and it's not. We would have talked about it as if it was an affordable housing unit, but the reality is that it's not consistent with people who are working for a living, trying to struggle in the city of Portland. I'm gonna vote yes again, and I'm gonna cringe when I do it. Because I don't want to slow down progress. We need a lot of housing, but at the same time, we have to stop presenting this as if this is affordable in any way, shape, or form. We should just call this a tax break for market rate housing and stop pretending that somehow low-income people will have any access to these units. I vote aye.
Maps.
I want to thank Commissioner Ryan for his leadership in bringing more affordable housing to our community. There are many of these projects that I actually think look great. I'm glad to see them come online. For these reasons and more, I vote aye.
Wheeler.
I vote aye. The ordinance is approved. Item 35, please call the roll.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
No.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
I vote no for purposes of reconsideration.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it only needed 4 of us on an emergency. Is that not true?
It requires a unanimous vote.
Forward.
Sorry, Mayor, if I could revote.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Wheeler.
I'm going to change my vote then to yes, the ordinance is adopted. Item 36, please.
Rubio.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Hardesty.
I couldn't hear the vote.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Maps.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Keelan, does that complete everything on our agenda? I think it does.
It does, Mayor.
All right, very good. Thanks, everybody. Good conversations today. A lot of important items were covered. Some really positive things, particularly around the O'Brien Square. I'm really appreciative of that. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.